When it falls, I will laugh.
That's fine.
That's okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. Are you ready for audio quality?
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Hi, I'm the Warrior Witch, and you can call me Nike. I have notes, because this will be a longer one.
Yeah.
Strap in!
There's several notes. Only a few. Only about 3, maybe 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Only a full page. So anyway, we're here.
Hi.
This is my friend Raevyn.
Hello.
We're here to talk about practical herbalism, because she knows a lot more about practical herbalism than I do. I know a lot of the magical herbalism, not so much of, like, the making things and health things. I know some.
Yes. Which is good.
But this is why you bring on friends.
Yes. Friends who are not licensed.
Yes.
Not a medical professional.
Not a medical professional.
However, I have knowledge that I've accrued over the years that I want to share with people. But as a non-professional, not licensed person, take my words with a little bit more than a grain of salt, but not a full grain of salt. Like, just because it's not real from a real professional.
Well, the general disclaimer we can
disclaimer.
give is always speak to a medical professional about any of this stuff if you have questions. Anything that is not a culinary herb, speak to a doctor.
And even some culinary herbs.
Yeah, even some culinary
Because
herbs.
in high doses, or for a long period of time, they can have some interesting effects with medications that you're on, or just in your body in general.
Yeah.
Like the whole apple cider thing, like getting ulcers
yeah.
in your stomach, like, that's when you have to speak to a medical professional first.
Yeah. So always speak to a doctor if you can.
Yes.
So, we're going to try to keep this generally in a format that flows well, but, you know, we'll see what happens.
Things happen. If you are on a medication or you have a known allergy, don't take things that have interactions with your medication or give you allergies. A lot of herbs could interact with your medications. It's really important to know what medications you are on and what substances can cause them to either not work way too hard over time, or a weird interaction in your body. Long-term things of this can cause, like, kidney damage, liver damage, acute conditions like heart palpitations, and, like, not cool allergic reactions that you didn't know you had before. So, better safe than sorry. That's why you ask a medical professional.
You can also look these things up.
You can. FDA has some tables of more common medications and things that they will interact with.
So when it comes to, like, interactions and stuff, it's also going to depend on how high the dose is and how you're taking it. Mm-hmm. So maybe it would also be good to go from check your drug interactions, but how can you use herbs in a practical way? So I want to go with, like, the things that you can make it into. I'm pointing at my notes, don't worry.
Notes are important. We reference them constantly.
So I know that there's, like, the first one I want to cover is specifically oils, because there's oils that you can use for magical purposes, but there's also oils that you can use either in cooking or in just, like, general topical use, and that's a little bit different. So I want to go over the general list. The general list is oils, salves, smoke blends, soaps, anything that you would eat. So, like, putting herbs on your food.
Or in pill form. Like capsules.
Yeah.
Those are pretty sweet.
What was teas, tinctures, and infusions.
Yes.
Because they're a little different. Poultices and compresses, and then everything that comes with, like, the care and dosage of said things.
It's great.
It's great.
So the 3 main liquids are oils, water, and alcohols and or vinegars. Those are used for tinctures. So with oils specifically, there's a little bit of a difference between culinary and medicinal use. Culinary use, usually it's hot and you just make it real quick, or you let it infuse for a long period of time. Essentially, medicinally, it's the same thing, but you want to ensure that they're going to last longer, and it's usually going to be a longer infusion time with more herb matter in the oil itself. With culinary use, you can usually get away with doing fresh herbs because you're going to use it really quickly. Whereas with medicinal stuff, dried is best because you don't exactly know when you're going to be using all of your product. You don't want it to go rancid too quickly. Water and oil do not mix, especially in terms of making a medicinal oil. There's a lot of different methods to do this. You can do a quick method where you just heat it on the stove, or just straight up in a crock pot. You can do a method in a crock pot or a stove where you put it in a jar and you do low heat for a long period of time. Or my preferred method is cold, dark, about a month and a half.
And when we say oils, I want to be really clear because I do want to address the elephant in the room. When we mean oils, we mean like almond oil, olive oil. We do not mean essential oils.
Yes. Essential oils are something that I personally stray away from because quality is not always there. They can be caustic and do really bad things to you long term or short term, depending on how you're using them. A lot of people will use them incorrectly and state to be experts, which no, you are not. You are advocating for hurting people, which is not cool. And they can be really dubious and very expensive, and never trust the internet when it comes to essential oils. Yeah, my general rule with essential oils is I never use them. But for me, if I would ever use them, there's two different camps for essential oils. There's the ones that I generally consider safe, and the ones that I generally consider not necessarily unsafe, but use with caution. Things like warming spices such as cinnamon essential oils, or anything with like mints or I
want to tell my story. I was telling Raevyn this earlier. I think I've said this on like the podcast or something somewhere. There was a time when I was making a magical oil, not like an ingesting or topical oil. I was making a magical oil using peppermint oil, and I had a little on my hands, and I did wash them, but I guess I like missed a bit or something, and I went and rubbed near my eyes. Like it was like down here. It wasn't like on my eye, but I did like rub around my eyes. It wasn't fun. I'm getting judged. I feel it.
A little bit. Just this is the second time I've heard this story, and both the times I'm just like, why?
Don't be me. Don't be me. Don't do that.
Wintergreens, anything with camphor in it, anything with like a strong kind of resiny vibe to it. Also citrus fruits, lemon, bergamot, orange, things like that.
Yeah.
Those are what I consider things to use with caution. My general safe dosages for that sort of thing, and only dilute with oil. Don't ingest it. If you do, I will disregard you. My safe dosages for the safe ones is 1 drop to every teaspoon of an oil. You can also weigh it out. I usually do it in grams. And then for a use with caution, that's 1 drop to every tablespoon of oil. It seems like not a lot. A little goes a long way, especially with these concentrated esters. So please be careful if you plan to use them. Also, therapeutic grade is not a real thing. It's real only in the MLM sphere. Just because it's therapeutic grade does not mean it's not going to hurt you.
Yes.
Anyway, big thing out of the way now.
Yes. The other types, because most people I don't think are going to know about the rest. Mm-hmm. So let's define a salve.
Okay, so salve or salve, depending on who you ask. I usually say salve. You're not wrong. You're great.
I'm right all the time.
You're never wrong.
I'm never wrong.
You're never wrong. But a salve essentially is an oil with some sort of stiffening base, usually beeswax or some other wax substance. You melt it together, you put it in a jar, and it's there.
There you have it.
There you have it.
And how do you use it on yourself?
So you can use them for lip balms or for like creams,
like rubbing,
like
lotion.
Balms. Lotions are
like a hard lotion.
Like a hard lotion. A lot of people use it actually in first aid preparations. Like I have one that uses plantain and calendula and lavender and rosemary. All of those herbs are pretty dang good for the skin, its own protection, and they have some antifungal and antibacterial properties.
There you go.
And I use that whenever I have like a zit, or just for like dry cracked lips or dry cracked hands. Works pretty great. Also just straight up calendula. Best thing that I've found for skin, actually.
Excellent.
Yes.
Now, smoke blends, I'll say, I don't usually push people towards those if they're looking at herbal stuff, just because that can be really tricky. There are certain things that you can do those things with. I know that mullein has been smoked to help with like congestion and stuff.
Yep.
But that's also one of those that you need to make sure you know exactly where that's being sourced from, because if it's like a commercially grown thing, you're not sure what sorts of like pesticides and whatever they've used, whatever, anything that they've used, you got to be really, really careful with those. So I generally set those aside because your lungs are really delicate, and it's really easy to mess those up. So that is something that I generally don't push people. I stray away from. But if you know what you're doing and you know your source, it can be okay. It's exactly what it sounds like. You put it into a wrapping or rolling paper, whatever it is.
You can also use a pipe.
Or a pipe.
If you have a pipe or a glass piece of any sort, you can use either of those. Also, another bit of knowledge, if you smoke it, you might have a different interaction than if you would ingest it or use it topically. So just because it's safe one way does not mean it's going to be safe in every different method. But
anyway, soaps. We were talking beforehand. You don't generally like soaps.
I don't make soaps. I don't use any soap base, just because it's not really my whole
I would like to clarify. Raevyn does wash. I mean, like soaps as in herbal soaps.
Yeah. Took me a bit. It's like, no, I use soap. I just don't make soap. Yeah. Well,
excellent.
I'm just a dirty hippie, I guess. I'm just gonna like go off in the woods and like come back a couple years later.
I don't use soap.
I'm better than all of you.
Okay, so why don't you make soaps?
Okay, so I don't make soaps primarily because I don't want to have to deal with lye. Lye, either potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide, depending on if you're making a soft soap or a hard soap. Sodium hydroxide is usually the one used for hard soaps, which is the most commercially available ones by artisans. If you make it yourself, lye can get really dangerous really quickly. In my notes, actually, it's written in red. It's the only place in my whole notebook where something is written in red because you can get, like, burns, like chemical burns. You can lose your eyesight. Breathing it in, you can do a little bit of damage. Like, you want to be really careful with it. It's also a very exothermic reaction, which means it heats up really, really quickly. So you want to be safe about it if you do it at all. There's a lot of really great YouTube people who make their own soaps, and they teach you how to do it. Go to them, not to me. Soaps are really great for herb things, but from what small bit of knowledge I know, using an infused oil in your soap as opposed to a like granule herb or something like that, that'll just discolor it and make it kind of gross, unless it's coffee grounds, in which case good scrubby exfoliating. So if you're going to be using soaps or making them, use an infused oil as your oil base when you're doing that with your lye.
What about soap making kits?
Soap making kits generally are okay. I know some about them. If anything, it's like a melt and pour. You just nuke it for a little bit, and you can do some embeds with like some herby boys or some coffee grounds. Those I think would be fine.
It's probably the safest way.
It's probably the safest way. Even like buying like a big thing of like melt and pour, great idea. But with melt and pour particularly, you don't technically need to add any oils to it. So, and if you do, it could kind of come out kind of gross or squishy or just wrong or never set. So read your instructions, essentially. Yes. Read your instructions, look to people who are a little bit more expert than I in that field.
It's also started raining, so if you hear thunder or rain noises, enjoy the ambiance, I suppose. I don't know how much of it will come through. Anyway, next one. We'll cover it just super briefly because I have essentially one piece of advice, and that's it. So with eating herbs, like practical herbalism as in eating, I generally say, unless you have grown it yourself, have done extensive research, and know exactly like how edible or safe it is, just use kitchen herbs. Like, I mean, stuff that you can get at the Dollar Tree or at Walmart in the spice section. Because they have a lot of stuff. I mean, I couldn't tell you off, everything that we have, but we've got, garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, dill, lots of stuff. Lots of things. But they're all culinary grade herbs. And culinary grade is going to be very different from... Like, I usually go to roses as the example. Like, culinary grade roses are very different. Hello, Rain. Culinary grade roses are going to be very different from store-bought roses, like when you buy a bundle. And store-bought roses are generally not safe for consumption because they usually have things on them like pesticides. So those I only use in magical workings. You'd buy specifically culinary grade roses. So just get things that have that culinary grade. Exceptions being like we have a sage plant, like garden sage growing outside. We know that's safe to eat. We know what we've used on it. We know our area is generally,
clean. Asterisk.
Clean asterisk. I mean, it's rainwater or kitchen, like sink water, tap water. So we know that we haven't added any pesticides or chemicals into it, so it's safe for us to use and grow our own. We have the community garden where we're growing like tomatoes and things. So that's different versus I went outside and found a plant that I think I've identified as this, and I think that means it's edible, so I'm going to eat it. Like, that's... I would recommend very much research.
Please be careful if you're going to try to forage your medicinal plants. Like, there's a lot of lookalikes out there. You want to check your stems, your flowers, your leaves. You want to make sure 100% you get a dichotomous key. Get a dichotomous key. I swear, they are the best things ever, especially if they are specific to your area.
What's a dichotomous key?
A dichotomous key is a specific, it's like a book, and it has all of the plants in it, and there's various key, like, whether it's like letters or numbers or something, and they correspond to the different plants that are in there.
I'm gonna get really wet because I need to close up the inner layers. Here we go.
All right, have fun. I believe in you.
Because this will start leaking. Oh,
oh no!
I'm not excited.
You got this.
You get it on the windows too, because the windows will
Okay, teas or infusion, because tea is technically a plant. That is something that I do a lot of, actually. Specifically with teas, I tend to do about a tablespoon of whatever herb matter that I want to use, whether it be blended or as is, and I put that to like a cup of water, maybe more if it's like an acute condition like period cramps. I have a period cramp tea. I'll slap a tablespoon of whatever blend and I'll put that in there. But when I'm making a blend, I weigh everything out by weight. Same whenever I make salves. Salves are a 8-to-1 ratio between my herb matter and my oils. Maybe a little bit more herb matter if it's really fluffy. How you doing?
I'm damp.
That's okay. Hey, you're damp.
Can you
That's
see it on my glasses?
Yeah, a little bit. You're doing great. You're doing great.
My entire arm is just wet now.
It's good.
Mother Nature.
It's fantastic. Teas and infusions, more so infusions, the longer you let them steep, the various distribution of the herbs and whatever blend, it'll make things ever so slightly different from cup to cup or brew to brew. So you just want, with teas and infusions, you just want to be a little bit more diligent in maintaining your herb freshness, because herbs can go bad, even the dried ones. After about a year of making a blend, I will usually do a double scoop of whatever I'm doing to get about the same effects. With tinctures are essentially a herbal infusion, but using either alcohol, high-proof alcohol such as Everclear or vodka, or using a vinegar. Vinegars and alcohols never really go bad, so you don't have to worry about freshness, and they usually are used for more of the hardy types of, or material plants, such as roots or resins, or like stems or seeds, possibly, but seed extracts or something like that I would stay away from because they might have weird stuff in them.
So, next on our list is poultices and compress. So,
yes.
Would I be correct in saying that a poultice is basically like pulp?
Basically, poultice and compress. A poultice, from my memory, I may have this backwards, a poultice is always hot, a compress is always cold. So a poultice is essentially, you take a bit of cotton or like a towel or whatever, you put your herbs in there, or you can blend them beforehand with a little bit of like water, and then you heat it up. You can do this like on in a microwave, or you can steam it or something. And then you press it to wherever you need the benefits. This is only topical, and it's used for a lot of like chronic pain, like arthritis, or to reduce swelling and inflammation, stuff like that. That's the most common usage I've seen of them. Same with compresses.
So when it comes to actually like getting your plants, now I like to forage. I've been very open about that. One, make sure you're always checking your local foraging laws, because it's going to depend sometimes on the area or on the plant specifically. Certain things are not allowed to forage. But generally, we mentioned it earlier, looking for lookalikes.
Yep.
Now, I'm no master forager, but generally the advice that I've seen online has been you need at least 3 different ways to confirm. Usually it's stems, leaves, and flowers. Now, a lot of flowers can look the same. The ones that I usually point to is like this whole group all looks very similar.
Yes.
Water hemlock, poisonous, cow parsnip. I don't think it's poisonous. I think it's just bad.
Dubious at best.
Dubious at best. Queen Anne's lace, which is also wild carrot. Dill can look very similar, just a slightly different color. What's some of the other ones?
I can't remember. I think you got the main 4.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah, those are the most common ones to us.
And a lot of that group is like half of them, because I know there's more. Half of them are poisonous. Half of them are fine.
Yeah.
Do you know how to identify them? Probably not.
Yeah.
I've learned how to identify a few of them because many of them grow in our area. Like hanging up, I don't know that I'll get a picture of it, but we can see. Hanging up over there, I have water hemlock up at the top. And then I also have, in my herbal supplies, Queen Anne's lace, aka wild carrot. And I had to be very careful in identifying them and making sure because I need to look at the leaves because the leaves usually have very different shapes. And some of the flowers, it's not that the flowers themselves will look different, but how the flowers grow.
Yes.
So like Queen Anne's lace, it all grows together in one little bundle and has a little skirt at the bottom, basically, like little green bits coming off.
It's usually a little bit bowl-shaped.
And so water hemlock does not have that little skirt. The leaves also look very different. Cow parsnip leaves are very big and kind of pointy, where Queen Anne's lace is not. Just little things like that.
Another one that kind of would do that would be yarrow as well.
Yes, yarrow, that was in that group.
Yarrow is a fantastic medicinal
Love
plant.
yarrow.
It grows out here,
Yeah.
but to the untrained eye, it can look very similar to these other things. However, yarrow is extremely identifiable by its smell and its leaves. So
Yeah, it's also much smaller.
Once you smelled it once, you can identify it from a mile away.
And the leaves you can usually see before anything
Yes.
else sprouts up. They're
like feathery and fern.
yeah, they're like
They're
a feathery
really,
fern.
They're very soft.
I love
they're
them.
very good. Oh, another bit about toxins. Don't work with them. Especially if you're a beginner. I never work with them because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not licensed. I don't have the knowledge to do this safely. Don't try to make a flying ointment. I will slap that jar out of your hands.
I only use, obviously because I have the water hemlock in my house, I only use poisonous herbs in magical workings.
Yes.
I do not use them in anything that's going to be herbal. And when I picked that water hemlock, actually, I didn't have gloves with me, so I grabbed a sock from my car. I grabbed a sock, okay, I didn't touch it with my bare hands. And then I grabbed it above the root, because I think the root is the more poisonous part.
I guess.
I grabbed it above the root, like on the stem, pulled it out of the ground, and then wrapped the sock around the roots, and then never touched it.
Okay, that's better, but like socks are still porous.
I know they're still porous. Okay, it's the best I had. I didn't have them.
You're okay. Hey, at least you don't got burns in your hands.
Learn
You're
from my
fine.
mistakes. Wear gloves. One of the other ones is also like if you. Not everything's gonna look like something that's poisonous. We have bloodroot in our area,
Yes.
which looks beautiful. Usually, you just see the leaves. I don't know that I've actually seen their flowers before.
They're really pretty. They only last a short amount of time.
That's why.
They're they have like little oval-shaped white petals, and they grow about yay big.
They look like, I always describe them in my own head as like little clay hands where they're like really soft. And then right here, instead of the palm, there's a little like cutout. And the stem is like here, right at the cutout part, and then the flower pokes up through that little like circular cutout.
It's really cool.
They're really pretty. They do have uses. The
They've been
sap
used historically.
historically, yes, the sap can burn you.
It's used in something called black salve, and the sap itself is known as an escharotic. It will eat your flesh, and then it will form a scab that is particularly known as an eschar. Don't look it up. You will have nightmares.
Yeah, it's
People
gross.
have used black salve on their kids, themselves, their pets. It's not a good time.
You don't love that.
Yeah, me neither. Jeff Holiday, made that very known to me, and I'm like, dang it, guys, why?
Yeah, I hate that.
But just because it's, here and, could be useful or has been used in the past does not mean you should be using it.
Yeah, and the label of, it's natural. Lots of poisons are natural. We have, obviously, water hemlock. We have bloodroot. We have...
Garlic mustard. Garlic mustard has naturally... I love garlic mustard, but it has naturally occurring cyanide in the second-year plants.
Yes.
Which is why you always want to blanch or otherwise cook your garlic mustard, because you can never, unless you're a trained horticulture person, you can never really identify a second-year plant because both of them flower.
Yeah.
So, you want to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
If you don't know, don't pick it. Don't eat it. Don't use it.
That too. And if you can, try to get either gardening gloves or plastic gloves, something to keep stuff off your skin if you're not sure.
Plastic bags.
Yes,
too,
plastic
for
bags.
carrying.
There's lots of great apps out there. I have some on my phone. I like iNaturalist, Picture This. Lots of good ones. There's a million. But it's helpful. They're not always going to be correct, but they're a good start. And if you identify it and you think it's right, but you're not sure, look for that plant on Google and then look at the leaves, the stem, because the stem on hemlock looks very different than the stem on yarrow or on Queen Anne's lace. They're different colors.
And seeing a plant in person is different than seeing it in a picture as well. Because once you have kind of a visual for it, you're a little bit more you can more easily identify it later. Oh, right. So there's particular parts of plants to use, and not all of them will always be safe. Prime example, yew, which is Y-E-W. Only the berries are edible, and they're jelly-like, and they kind of taste like a red jello. But with yew, every other part of the plant is extremely toxic. This isn't going to be the same for every medicinal plant, but different parts of the plant are going to be used for different types of things. So like roots, tinctures. Leaves and flowers can be used in oils or teas because they're a little bit more delicate. They would be easily destroyed and alcohol-based, whereas with roots, you wouldn't necessarily be able to get every bit of the medicinal property out of it using an oil or a infusion. There's
also very different ways that you can use certain things, like curly dock. When they're brown and crispy, you can actually grind that up. You just like take all the things off. You just like shred it basically. Yeah. And you can turn that into a flour, and it's, I believe, gluten-free.
It's gluten-free.
Like totally celiac friendly.
It's very good. I think it's kind of similar to buckwheat.
Yes, it's been compared to buckwheat. So it's sort of that flavor.
Yeah, it's that flavor profile.
So like that would be one way to use that versus like the roots or the leaves. So it's really going to be particular parts. Some plants like dandelion, you can use everything.
Yes.
But that's generally rare. Ish.
Yeah, or at least like the parts that are usually discarded aren't gonna have this like the same amount of properties to them. Yeah. So like rosemary, you're not gonna really use the roots because the leaves already have all of that delicious pungent resin that we all know and love.
Same with catnip. I have catnip on my balcony, which we also grow. And you can very easily turn that into like a tea or something very safe.
A snack.
My cat. Side note, we're gonna go off track for a second. I've owned cats my entire life. My current cat is the only one I've ever had that actually ate the leaves. The rest of my cats just rolled on it. Like, you put catnip on the ground, they go, oh yeah.
And they're just like,
then my boy's like, it's snack time. Yeah, that's where we are.
It's a snack that smells back.
You and my son. Final point. Books to look at and to not look at.
So the one book that I advocate people get is by Rosemary Gladstar. And I think it's a modern herbal... No, that's a different thing entirely, sorry. I forget the title of the book, but Rosemary Gladstar, pretty dang cool, mildly witchy vibes, but pretty dang good sources. Check your bibliographies, and then check the bibliography sources. So with the FDA, you can look on their website, look at supplement facts, even though technically they don't need to have supplement facts. They can have information on drug-herb interactions. You can always look up, drugs.com actually has really good information on whatever particular medication you look up. It can bring up side effects, interactions, stuff like that. And then for those who are more research inclined, you can look at a website called JSTOR, JSTOR, and they are a free database for publishers. You don't have to have any accreditation or university affiliation to log onto this website. And they're pretty great. They'll always look for peer-reviewed articles, in my humble opinion, because those are going to be your best bet for people that aren't going to con you.
Now, the nose category, I'll say, I love a good magic book. I love a good magical herb book. I will say, if you're looking for practical stuff, like topical, edible stuff, most magical herb books are not going to reference all of the necessary things involved for doing, like, practical medicinal herbal things. Like, they're great. They can tell you the magical correspondences, but I have seen quite a number of magical herbal books that list, like, hemlock that don't tell you they're poisonous.
Yeah.
Which is a big yikes.
Like, they might say, like, for belladonna or, like, mandrake, poisonous, used with caution, but things like mistletoe, or, like, hemlock or mugwort, or other things that could cause, or St. John's wort even.
Yep.
Things like that can interact with either just your system or your medications, especially if you're an individual who is nursing or pregnant or planning to become pregnant.
If you are pregnant, do not take mugwort.
Please don't.
Do not take mugwort if you are pregnant.
Don't even take, like, raspberry leaf. Or
really?
Yes, because that's the main base in a period cramp infusion that I have, and that can cause some contraction,
some things,
activity.
Things. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't know the word abortifacient, you should look it up.
Yes, that's important. That's very important.
That'd be a very, for anybody with a uterus or anybody that would be giving things to people with uteruses.
Yes.
That's a good word to look up to know what plants that's a good word to look up to know what plants are considered in that category.
Yes, extremely important.
And the other one is the general caveat, always, social media is not always your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's looking out for your best interest. Always make sure you're looking for as much scientific research in this, more than any other, I would say, as possible.
Look for medical as opposed to therapeutic.
Yes.
Look for medical stuff.
Therapeutic's generally going to be iffy. Medical is going to be important.
Medical.
And the Barnes & Noble kitchen section.
Oof. So the Barnes & Noble kitchen section is not your friend in this sort of sphere, in addition to the health and wellness section, unless they are, like, really good stuff that, like, you've looked into before you buy them. Because I got a Herbalism book, which was trash. It was bad. It advocated you put, like, a 1/4 cup of cayenne pepper to about a cup of oil, and don't strain it out, and you just use that on yourself. And I'm like, that's
on yourself?
Yeah. It's the same reason why you shouldn't put cinnamon in soaps. Because you will burn yourself. If it seems wrong, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Common sense is very important when you're doing this sort of stuff in addition to the medical science.
Yes.
But I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
That's it.
Do you want to plug social media?
I'm on Instagram at It's Raevyn Fire. It's spelled really stupid, so we'll like put it somewhere.
I'll put it here.
Wow, we're holding it. Wow. This lovely URL or whatever, or whatever. I don't know. I used to do YouTube, but I don't anymore.
You can find me places. I do Twitch Mondays and Tuesdays, sometimes Wednesdays.
It's a good time. It's a very good time.
It's very chaotic.
There's so much live tweeting.
Yes. I do a podcast called Magnolias Magic with Temp is now a guest host.
Yep.
We officially made that announcement. Our dear friend Anthony will be taking her place. So that'll be pretty cool. You can find me on places, I'll forget some of them, Instagram, Twitter, my website. Hey, if you're not subscribed to me, you should do it.
Do that.
I'm very cool.
Do that or I'll come and I'll eat your toes. Alternatively, I will knock any cinnamon. I'll steal your cinnamon so you can't use it incorrectly.
There you go. And cayenne pepper.
And cayenne pepper.
Just
and
take
any chilies. Mine now. They're going inside my body instead of yours.
Take my peppermint oil away.
Yes. Yeah, I might actually. You're not going to mess up again.
I learned my lesson. That's all I have. Thanks for watching. Yay!
Woohoo!